And it's Tuesday night again, time for show and share here at Knox Makers. We always come Tuesday nights to show what we've made, what we're in the process of making, things that we tried to make and maybe didn't work, and we can all learn from that kind of stuff. So let's get started. We've got a few folks to show things, and first is Ryan with his hammock sleep system.
All right, so I'm thinking, so I've talked about this, elements of this a couple times now, and I'm thinking this is probably my penultimate installation. This is nearly complete, and within this bag is about everything that one needs to sleep in between two trees in pretty much four-season weather in Tennessee. So down to about you can probably do down to about 15 degrees and in fairly stormy conditions and be perfectly comfortable. It will pack down to about yay big. It's a compression sack that I've left uncompressed because otherwise things get smushed and it won't look as pretty. And it weighs about 2.5 pounds. So I don't have any time to go into detail on any of this because a huge amount of work has gone into all of this. So it's going to be more like a carrot top routine where I just pull things out and talk about them really quick. Can I get 2 volunteer trees? Okay. What's that? So this is the hammock portion, and one lays in this guy onto your underquilt. Your underquilt is hanging from the same line, and John Dill, if you would, give me this right here. Oh, that'll work. So my suspension that I've gone with here is what's known as a CLEW, C-L-E-W. I don't know how well that'll show, but I think that's what we got. So the CLEW here acts as a suspension. It's made up of a bunch of different shot cord elements which pull the entirety of your quilt underneath your butt. So that means that you are not laying on top of your suspension, your insulation. Instead, it is underneath the hammock and therefore uncompressed. John Dale? As opposed to something like a sleeping bag where you would be laying on it. I showed this before. This is the top quilt that lays over you, but I've made a couple of improvements on it since then. One is that near my top here, I've got a feed line running through, where on the other end, I've got a hook and a cord lock here. And what you do is the hook gets passed through the loop here, and then the cord lock cinches down. So this will cinch down around your neck. You'll notice above the cord here is this sleeve of down that's called your draft guard, and it will kind of form like a sort of like a Shakespeare neck piece kind of a deal. On the bottom, I've added a zipper and a similar drawstring setup. So same deal. On the bottom, the foot box gets zippered up. So this can be undone and act as just like a blanket, or it can be done up and have an enclosed foot box where you take the draft guard, same thing as on top, and push it inside and it clumps up right where that hole is, right where the cinch has been cinched. And so that encloses your foot box.
You've made all this?
I've made all of this from raw fabric and insulation. And I spliced the lines, I spliced the clew suspension, heat shrunk all the knots on the clew. Yeah, very, very much a scratch build. And I'm going to trade you guys. That's it for the magic bag. Finally,
Hold the string?
yes, please. Finally, we have our tent. My tent here is made of sill poly, and I've decided to go for a it's a bit heavier and a bit larger than one would really need for like an overhead summer camping setup, but it is fully enclosed from wind. And later tonight, I'm going to be adding some bug net, so it will also be enclosed from insects. So I will not have a standalone bug net. At least we're going to see how that works to start with. My suspension here is made up of pretty much just line and a prusik knot on that. There are some small bits of hardware that allow me to set this up in just the course of a few minutes. All of the corners here are made like this. So the corners of each of these have been cut on the laser cutter, John Dale. I cut a laser cut patch on front and back, so this is 3 layers thick. The nice thing about the laser is that both sides are exactly identical, so you don't see much overlap between the two when the light shines through it. Not that that matters at all, but it's satisfying.
What material is that?
This is called sill poly. It is silicone impregnated polyester. It is about 0.9 ounces per square yard and it is hydrophobic, which means that it does not get wet after being rained on for a long time, which is really nice. A lot of ultralight tarp materials, they take on water, and so when you pack them, they pack away wet.
What about the corners? What material is that insulation?
It is the same. It is the same as the rest of the tarp that has then been bonded with silicone adhesive to the base material and then hemmed in place. The ribbon is grosgrain that has a really sloppy box stitch attached to each one of them. And then, it goes to your cord, it goes to a hook, and that goes to a piece of shot cord and down to the stake. The final step on these guys, well, the second to final step, the mosquito net still needs to be added. Regardless, the last thing that I've done so far is these guys, and if you guys could hold that up high, and what you've got high and separate, like get this taut if you please. The final bit here are these 2 pullouts, which hopefully you won't be able to see. They came out orange, and I actually Sharpied over them. Very professional. In order to, I found that I wanted to be able to kind of have the ability to stealth camp and not be seen very easily. So I've coded that. So you might not be able to see it very well, but so I've got these 2 pullouts here, and what these do, at the moment I don't have the tassels attached, they pull out, they go to a drawstring, a piece of shot cord as well, and then on each side there's one of these. You put your trekking poles. and you lay them on top of your ridge line. And so it's trekking pole. They get hung down to this, and they provide that structure so that instead of falling in, the tarp kind of falls out, and it really opens things up. I think that's about it. Oh yeah, and then finally we have on the ends, good job, Patrice, keep it up. Keep it up, please. On the ends, we have our doors, and this is what makes this fully enclosed. So when this is set up the way it is, these are going to be Velcroed together and fully close in the space inside. I don't have any great pictures of it fully enclosed. You're welcome to lower it, trees. But that, there's a rough approximation anyway of what the thing looks like when it's done. It's very spacious inside. Got a very mopey looking dog for scale. Ah, you saw it. And yeah, I think that's it. Yes, sir.
I usually ask how long it took to make it, but I'm going to ask a different time question. How long does it take you to get out of it if a bear mistakes you
To get me out of it,
Yeah.
pretty fast. Yeah. Yeah, I could. Yeah. It's probably not as fast as a bear. Yeah, I always, that's why I always hang 15 to 20 feet up in the tree. Thank you, trees. Right. Are there any other questions? Yes, sir.
How are you going to combine the terminal ends of your cores with the fiber tree?
Combine the terminal ends?
I mean, how are you finishing your cores off at the end of the terminal ends?
Well, there's at the end of, oh, I'm sorry. So I have tree straps. This is what's called a whoopee sling. On the end of my hammock here, this is a gathered end hammock, so it's a sewn channel. And then through that is past this loop. It's just a continuous loop of am steel. Through that is past a lark's head, which goes down to this guy, called a whoopee sling. So this acts as kind of a lashing setup where I can pull this drawstring and tighten down my line here. So that allows me to adjust the length of the line. And then this goes to a toggle wrapped around a tree strap. And that goes to the tree. Does that answer your question? All of the ends of my lines here have been just a buried end splice. 12-strand rope is actually really easy and nice to splice rather than trying to do a knots with it, and it really allows you to keep almost 100% of your strength. So all of my lines here for the hammock have like a 1,500-pound breaking strength, something like that. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. My materials cost was something in the realm of $400 or $500 by the time all was said and done. About 300 of that was the down for the quilts. And then another 100 of it was the fabric for the quilts. It's a very particular kind of fabric. It needs to be a calendared ripstop nylon that is very, very lightweight. To give a ballpark of what it would cost to buy, just for anybody wondering, it's probably looking at, I don't know, 1,500 here, something like that. Anybody else? All right, thanks.
hard for me to imagine. All of that stuff came out of that little bitty bag. That is impressive. Next, we have David Martin, and I don't know if I'm getting this right or not. He has a 555 astable. I don't know what that is.
No, Bucky won't explain it too much.
Now let's do it that way. There's this integrated circuit somebody made a long time ago called a 555 timer.
Talk into the mic.
Which one's the mic? There's stuff everywhere. Can you hear me now? Yeah. All right. Somebody made a long time ago, and I forgot the manufacturer. They made a 555 timer. And it's called that because arguably, maybe, there's a three 5k ohm resistors daisy chained across each other for a voltage divider. And what that lets you do, I've slowly begun to realize, is it lets you get the same frequency regardless of what the applied voltage is by using parts of what amounts to kind of like a sine wave to chop it off at 1/3 and 2/3. So whatever you power it with, you get a sine wave from the RC constant, resistors and capacitors, and you end up with the same frequency, which is cool, I thought, because it doesn't care. It's only operating on parts of what you get. So, and this started with a totally different idea. It was innocent enough when I started. Now it just plain rears up and doesn't work. But it sounded like it was going to be great, right? Because you can do all kinds of stuff. If you set the frequency in the range of audio, then you can make a Morse code oscillator with it and learn Morse code. If you slow it down even more, you can make a light that blinks. If you go fast enough, you can provide a clock pulse for a microprocessor on it. And it doesn't much care which one you choose, which I think makes it just an extremely wonderful chip. And it's only 8 pins, one of which you don't even have to use. So, that said, this one is supposed to blink a light. And I wanted to choose between blinking an LED that is just yellow, or I could blink an infrared LED and freak out my remote control tester that I haven't built because I wanted this first. So, if you could see well enough, you can see where the problem is. I cannot see well enough. I used to be a lot better at this. Somewhere in there, there's either a solder bridge or a misconnection or something. I will figure it out eventually. So, one of the innovations this trip is I wanted to be able to power it and to be able to hang a clip on negative or ground so I could poke at it with an oscilloscope. So I did that. And the other thing I wanted to do is not use the LED all the time. So I put in a jumper. Watch that be what's wrong. So that if I had a jumper, then I could add another jumper for the infrared, and I could choose which one I'm going to use. And if I don't think the infrared's doing its thing, I can switch over and see if turn on the yellow one, basically. Or I could leave them both turned on, because I ain't proud, and I got lots of batteries. So that is my great plan. It's just enough as it sits here in its do-nothing condition. It's just enough to give you a problem with airport security, and not enough to actually blink an LED. So here's hoping my stand-up routine does better than my rap career. Any questions at all?
We can bring it back when it works.
If it ever works, yes.
It will. We got faith.
It may be quite a lot different when it works, because I'm going to use a bigger board, maybe. It's a 555 timer. Yeah, its name is its number. So and you can pay anything you want for them. You can get them for almost about 10 or 15 cents a piece if you're willing to buy 100. or Radio Shack. I think they're probably everything's $5 now. I think I was around maybe 20 cents a piece on Amazon. It's amazing how much mileage you can get out of the thing, assuming you can get it to work at all. So, hooray. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Now I understand 555. We've got another 5 coming up. No, it's not 5, it's fire. Brian Jones has a fire fountain.
Good evening. My name's Brian. I've not had a lot of time to make lately, so I'm presenting a project that was done back in 2020 when free time was plentiful. So I set out to make a fire fountain, the goal of lighting water on fire, and the beginning of that was housing for a bucket with a pump and a bunch of propane. So this is the outline of the box that I made. Had a couple of nice pallets sitting around, so repurposed them for this. Then I went and I got the bucket for the fountain on the top. That is just purchased from Home Depot with a couple holes drilled in the bottom. Here you can see the bucket. I added a shelf so the bucket sits above the propane tank. Added a door with a magnet to keep it closed, some wheels on the bottom. Here's the whole thing pretty much set up. This is the inside of the bucket. So once everything was wired up, I built this fountain head basically, and it's a piece of sprinkler tubing with a washer on top, some straws in the middle, and a small copper pipe going through for the propane. So here at the bottom, the propane comes straight through the bottom, travels up that small pipe, the water flows in through the side here, up through the straws, and out through the washer surrounding the propane line. These 3 green sticks are just dowels to support the top. I didn't want to look into properly waterproofing them, so I wrapped them in cellophane, and they seem to be holding up pretty well. Added a grate at the top for aesthetics, and then this is the result. A little hard to see, but it's currently still a work in progress because it's been moved a couple times and is not functioning currently, but something that I hope to fix here eventually. So I had seen a commercially produced one a long time ago, and I was throwing around the idea for it. Fortunately, right around the time COVID hit, I was going over, the mechanisms in my mind, but I finally found a video that someone called The Backyard Scientist made a YouTube video on how he made one of these things. So for the actual component to it, I took a page out of his book for a few of those. Any other questions?
How do you regulate the water and the gas?
So really, the pump comes in a specific strength, so you get to choose how big. It's just an aquarium pump, so kind of the size of the aquarium. I think I bought like a 20-gallon tank pump, and just plugged it in, and it was about right, fortunately. And then the propane, I didn't have to regulate. You just turn the dial as much as you want it open and going. So yeah. So the knob on the tank, so just completely independent of each other. Just turn on the gas when you're ready for it. All right. Thank you.
Do I need to touch something, Billy?
Just turn it off and back on.
Okay.
Probably hit this button right here.
All righty then. Thank you, Brian. Super cool. Next. I'm sorry, I can't read this, Mr. Johnson. First name? CJ. Wow, that's what it says, CJ. I just couldn't read it. Getting old is wonderful. And you're going to show us some cell service you made.
I am, yes.
All right.
So, hi everyone. My name is CJ Johnson. I am a newbie here. This is something I made many years ago. I haven't yet made anything here, so I thought I'd show this off. I took two very large, blunt objects and shoved them together and made one thing that I thought was pretty cool. So, there's two different components here that I'm going to explain. The first one is TruePhone. TruePhone is an MVNO, mobile virtual network operator, basically a reseller. So they make contracts with service providers and then resell cell phone service. TruePhone is based in the UK, and at least at the time I initially subscribed, they were still part of the EU, so it's been a while. There is an EU regulation that's very interesting. It has interesting implications. So in the EU, if you send a text message or initiate a call, you are responsible for paying for it, which means if you receive a text message or receive a call, it is always free by contract. So it doesn't matter what your service provider is, you will always receive for free. And so even though they're no longer in the EU, they still provide this guarantee in the UK. In addition, TruePhone is also a global provider. So they have contracts with providers all around the world. So no matter where you are in the world, you can receive free phone calls and text messages, which is kind of crazy to me that they provide that. And then it's a pay-as-you-go service. And so as long as you're not initiating calls or initiating texts, you're paying $0, which is crazy. Yeah, so you just automatically get free incoming calls wherever you are. In addition to that, there's something called Google Voice, which you may have heard of, may not have. It's not that popular, but it's a virtual phone service in the US. Basically, you get a US phone number, and wherever you have an internet connection, you can make calls or text messages for free. I like it. I use it a lot. It's unfortunate that I cannot both use iMessage and Google Voice at the same time. I have to pick which one, so I'd use both in different numbers, unfortunately. Anyway, I make it work. What's cool about this, though, is that Google Voice has a feature, and the feature is for initiating an outgoing call, you can either use an over-the-internet call, which is what most people do. You just type in the number here, and then it starts a call, and it's over the internet, and so it works. You have to provide the internet connection yourself. You cannot, it's not using cell towers, it's using internet for that. Whereas you can also have it set up where you can have it dial you back, and then it calls the other person. So basically, you ask Google Voice to dial you, and then it dials the other person after that. And this means that when you combine TruePhone and Google Voice, you get unlimited free phone calls because you're receiving the phone call from TruePhone's perspective and dialing out from Google's perspective. So anyway, that's what I have.
How did you smash them together?
They're blunt puzzle pieces that I don't know. They work automatically. I was just saying that there are two things that I happen to notice have oh, that's curious. I can use this thing for this part and this thing for this part. Yeah. So I do. I actually pay for multiple phone connections for other reasons I can tell you about if you're interested. But I have a Cricket line and then 2 AT&T lines. All right. Thank you.
That's pretty bizarre and pretty cool at the same time. All right, we've got a couple of announcements. Who likes to eat? Oh, wait, we may have more people that aren't on the list. Do you have something to show? Yes, all right. Sorry, I forgot.
Hey Hi, y'all. I'm Narita. My friend is working on opening a preschool, and she asked me to help her out with some of the tasks. So I've re-put together some drawers and cabinets and things that she had started building. But one of the projects has been more of a fun project. So she had these like clear acrylic, like they're a little bit thicker than a sheet of cardstock, but they're just clear acrylic. And then she had some colorful film, and she said, I want you to crinkle it up and attach it to the plastic and cut it into shapes. And I'm gonna hang it up and make an art piece for the preschool. So I was like, okay, power tools and crafty stuff and spray glue sounds like a great time to me. So I started her idea after I got the first set of shapes cut out. I got it hung up, and I was like, well, what do you want me to hang it up with? And at first she talked about like buying a long piece of acrylic or a clear tube or a piece of wood or whatever. And then she's like, well, I have these really thick acrylic things, like plexiglass things. So I was like, all right. So we hung it up with fishing string. That was the initial draft of it. So that's me holding it. I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. It's a good size. She was thinking of hanging it up like a mobile kind of over the infant area. And it's really lightweight. So this is spread out across my whole floor. She said, I want more triangles, and I want more colors, and I want one color per string. So I was like, okay, so let me revamp everything. So I started, this is just so you could see one thing of string. Sorry, I guess it's little. So they're just little plastic triangles attached with fishing line. And then today we got more of them put on there. So this is how it's looking in progress. Got that done. I'm thinking, okay, I'm getting closer to being done. And we have it mounted with fishing string and a shower hook on top. Because she's like, I don't know if the fire marshal will allow me to hang it from the ceiling of a school. And I was like, well, maybe we could use a flagpole and hang it from the wall. So it's like, all right, we have a few different options for that. And with shower hook, it'll be really easy to unclip. And yeah, so, and then she's like, I want gems hanging. So, and she's also talked about wanting to put some LEDs on top. So, it's turning more than just a couple triangles on a string. But it's been a fun project to play with, so I figured I would share with y'all. Thank you. Oh.
We are concerned. How heavy are these? Is it heavy at all? You said pieces of like plexiglass?
It's super light.
Really light.
Like
And
each.
when I think of plexiglass, it doesn't sound.
No, each triangle is about like the weight of this.
Okay.
So it's
there's
super.
no harm of these eventually grabbing. That's immediately had to.
No, and I think now she's saying, oh, maybe this will look good in my office. So I don't think it's gonna be going directly over any sleeping infants, but.
Really cool looking, but
Yeah.
I heard over babies. I got.
Yeah, no, and they're super lightweight, so it's just like a bunch of these attached on a string. It's really interesting.
Spray glue the color crinkle to the other part?
Yeah, and then I sliced it open, or I cut it with just like a regular shop tool. Yeah, like a razor. And that got dull really quick, so swapping out, because it's just like the glue was so sticky on it. But yeah, and then just drilled a hole with a regular drill and into a piece of wood. And even that was like trying to get the plastic to not come undone was a bit tricky, but I didn't have any better hole punching tools available, so I was like, all right, this is what we're doing.
You have the amazing elf friend
I could probably try. So,
All right. Are there any more? Sean has a thing.
It's a thing and a call. So, first of all, just thank you to people who came out on Friday for our Perler class. That was fun. CJ was there, so nice to see some new members there. So we're definitely going to be holding some more Friday classes coming up soon with just some sort of fun things. Just take that off. There's better contrast. Yeah, so that's Mario. And then two, as you may have seen walking in, there is a vintage-looking capsule machine sitting on that table. And if you happen to be on Mattermost in the past week, you may have seen Aliki post something about an art vending machine that she encountered in the wild. And it turns out that I have been thinking of the same thing for a couple years, and I finally pulled the trigger. So I'm calling on Knox Makers members to populate this art vending machine of sorts so that we can kind of bring it to events if we're out in public, or have it at our markets or whatever, and just a way to showcase sort of the small creative things that we are capable of doing. I have provided some capsules there. They're 2-inch capsules, so basically anything that can fit in the capsule and not pop open can go in the vending machine. And I would advise maybe not spend too much time, because this is going to be a 50-cent craft, but possibly up to $1, depending if I can get the mechanism. But yeah, so if you are interested in that, go ahead and grab some capsules, grab a lid, and I can't wait to see what y'all make. But yeah.
Is it a repurposed cigarette machine like the one?
No, it's like what you see in the grocery store. It's just sort of off to the side. It's one of those things that usually they got like sticky hands or temporary tattoos in them. But yeah, so those are the ones that are usually gathering dust. Yeah, exactly, but for 2-inch capsules, so yeah. Yeah. So yeah, if you are interested, go right ahead and grab them. I'll probably put a bucket out to collect finished ones. You can bring them in and drop them in there. And yeah, it should be fun to see what people make. Yeah. And any medium is welcome. But yeah, thanks.
What a terrific idea. Okay. Question. Who likes to eat? Well, I was worrying there for a second. You should come next week, 6-ish, maybe 5:30-ish or so, because we're going to have a cookout. So come on, enjoy the grub and the fellowship, and we'll have fun making things to consume. Tuesday, next Tuesday. You can if you want to, but for the most part, it will be supplied, right? John Dale is a chef extraordinaire. Let's say it'll be edible, okay? We hope. Right, okay. As of today, booth sign-ups for the Makers Market are available to the public. So, if you know anybody that makes stuff, crafty things, any things, in order to have a booth, you do need to make whatever it is you are selling. We've got a number of members who have already signed up for booths, but now we can open it to other folks. Yes, ma'am? No, you do not have to be a member. If you are a member, a booth will cost you $20. If you are not a member, the cost is $40. It's a bargain no matter how you look at it. Yes, sir. Yes, if you will go to market.knoxmakers.org, there will be a sign up there. Pardon. Yes, special link for members on Mattermost. That is correct. Yes, sir. Oh, when and where? June 11th, 2023. In the parking lot. June 11th, in the parking lot. And we will be needing lots of help to make this thing happen. And if you would like to help make this happen, you can see the volunteer coordinator, who happens to be me. So, I've got a list started of people that have already said they would like to help. Please let me know if you would like to help. Shouldn't be anything strenuous. All that stuff I'm going to give to the young bucks, but otherwise we need lots of hands and brains. Any more questions about the market? Okay, very good. Oh, question, I'm sorry.
But, so, I assume everybody needs to have their own, like, entity type thing?
That is correct. You will be given a, pardon me, pollen. You will be given a 10 by 10 foot square, and it will be virtually blank. It'll have a gravel floor, but other than that, it's up to you. Yes, sir. Oh yeah, that's a square, right? Yeah.
Tents are in the parking lot, will we need to be parked somewhere else or just?
Yes. The question is about where do we park, since tents will be in the parking lot. We will have parking in surrounding areas. There will be a designated vendor parking lot, so you won't be like super far away. Last year, we didn't let people like drive into their booth. That gets too crazy, but you'll be close enough so that you don't have to carry your stuff like forever. And we'll have lots of volunteers to help you carry your stuff, right? Right? And yeah, so there will be parking for the public in surrounding areas as well. Any other questions? Margaret?
I know I need to talk to you afterwards, but just clarify that. So the people that are coming to the market, where are they?
General public. We will be advertising, letting people know that the market.
I mean, will they be parking in the parking lot?
No, there will be parking supplied for them, like over at the, what is that, the Kidney Center and up at Spark and. Yeah, surrounding businesses, yeah. What else we got? Yes, sir.
Is there an option for electricity for those groups?
Currently, we do not provide or have electricity, sorry. There will be food trucks though, but they provide their own. All righty then. Any more questions? Just post on Mattermost. There is a channel for the market. Keep an eye on that. If you haven't subscribed to that channel, please subscribe. Keep your eye on it, because as it gets, I mean, we're in the midst of it now. Leaky has done a tremendous amount of work to get everything organized, to get started. We appreciate her so much, and I can't wait to get this thing happening.
If you have more questions after the
Yeah, that's a Leaky. Would you stand up? That's a Leaky. All righty. We do have some events coming up. I'll mention maybe a couple, but you can always go to knoxmakers.org/events, and you will find out about things like the embroidery machine authorization, which happens on the 15th. Laser cutting workshop, that's the authorization on the 15th also. You can't take two classes at the same time. That was actually a question. Go figure. Board meeting is on the 16th. That's next week, 2 o'clock online. You're welcome to come and join in and see what the board crazies are doing. Let's see what else. Small alterations with a machine. I assume that's a sewing machine? Yes. All right. Not a table saw, right? Metal turning, all kinds of stuff. So just go to knoxmakers.org/events. Tonight after the meeting is a new member onboarding, right? Yes. So If you are a prospective member, this is a requirement for full membership to attend one of these meetings. However, you are welcome if you are not a member, maybe don't know if you want to be or not. You can find out a lot more about the organization. It's just an open time that you can learn more about Knox Makers. So it's really a fun time, hosted by Tracy and Isaac, and they are very informative and somewhat entertaining. Last thing, if somebody would check the air filters, that would be great. And we need somebody to take the garbage out. Don't everybody raise their hand at once. All right, we got a garbage guy and an air filter guy, and you guys just thank you so much. If there's nothing else, let's go out to the shop, make some stuff, have fun, and thank you for being here.